Okay, so I know it's been a while since I've done anything Resident Evil related. That Resident Evil kick I was on, I kind of got out of it. But don't worry, if you've been enjoying my Resident Evil videos, I'm going to keep going with them. Just a little bit more spread apart. But, I am working on it. I am kind of working my way up to Resident Evil 8. I haven't gotten 8 yet, but since I haven't played 7, I don't want to get 8 until I've played 7. So, that being said, last time, Resident Evil 7, did that one. And this is the next one in chronological order. Resident Evil Revelations 2. Or Revelations 2. They don't really do that anymore, but I just laughed my ass off whenever they did that. But yeah, so the first Revelations I played was ultimately my least favorite Resident Evil game. To my surprise, this almost became my favorite Resident Evil game. It was that drastically different. Unfortunately, it really dropped the ball in a couple of places that stopped it from being my all-time favorite Resident Evil game. And that's unfortunate because this, at times, was amazing. It really was. I mean, at times, I would have said, go out and buy yourself a copy of this right now. Do not hesitate. But other times, it dropped the ball. And so, fortunately, I'm going to have to get into those points now. Yeah.
Resident Evil.
Okay, so first thing I noticed was two things. One, for some weird reason, you play as Claire Redfield again in this game. That's not the weird reason. Comma back there. But you play as Claire Redfield again. She's back from, Resident Evil Degeneration, that movie. And for some weird reason, her nose grew 2 sizes. Which makes no sense because, nowhere else is her nose this big. Just for some weird reason in this game, her nose is much bigger than her other appearances. I know that seems weird for me to bring up, but it was really distracting to me. So, the other thing I did not like this was, with the first Resident Evil Revelations, they had it set up like a TV series. And in this, they do it again as well. There were 4 episodes, and usually in the first Revelations, they did previously on Resident Evil Revelations. Well, with this one, they now have a next time. And next times always spoil crap, okay? I don't want stuff spoiled for me, especially if I'm binging the series or if I'm sitting down and playing the game. I don't want you to spoil stuff for me with the game, so I always skip those. Why they added them, I do not know. So, yeah. And another thing I did not enjoy, there's 2 campaigns, essentially, this. There's one that follows Claire Redfield and Moira Byrne, and no one that follows Barry Byrne and this little girl whose name I can't even remember, and I was playing it just the other night. It was Natalia. Not Natalie, Natalia. So Barry and Natalia, and then Claire and Moira. Moira was really annoying. I kind of cringed anytime she did anything. That being said, for the most part, voice acting is okay. Huge, drastic improvement over the original Revelations. But there were some really cringy parts as well. Nothing nearly as bad as he's quoting Dante. But there were some really, really cringy moments in the dialogue of Revelations 2. So thankfully they weren't as frequent as in the first Revelations game, but they're there. And so, now, one of the stars of this game is the atmosphere. I mean, the atmosphere is truly impressive. The art design, the way they set up all the levels. I mean, to be completely honest, it actually felt like they were trying to make a scary game here. Unlike previous Resident Evil games where, I mean, like, just, I've never really been scared. There was a couple of times I kind of had the jump. I don't really scream at a game, but I will kind of just go like a, you know, I'll have like a jump like that, and then I'll just like kind of keep playing, because, you know, it's a jump scare. And they did have a couple of jump scares in this game. So, while I won't say this was a really terrifying game, I will say I was pleased with how they were trying to make this a scary game. And for that, bravo, guys. Bravo. I mean, not quite the generator or the regenerator level from Resident Evil 4, but compared to the rest of Resident Evil 4, this thing was like the most terrifying video game of all time. I mean, at least they tried with this. Resident Evil 4, none of that game was scary except for the regenerator scene. And so, yeah, I mean, big plus for this game with how they were really trying to creep you out, how they were trying to scare you, how they were trying to do jump scares, how they were trying to really make this like an unsettling game, to the point that the opening level with Claire and Moira, you wake up in these dungeons that pretty much every cell was like used to torture someone, okay? I mean, that's kind of the theme setup they have here. I mean, very Silent Hill-ish at the beginning, which was surprising. Now, for some weird reason, whenever there was a loading screen, they always would quote this one guy named Frank Katz with a Z at the end or something like that. It's like, that was the only writer they quoted in this game, and they never really explained why, so I didn't get that. But the atmosphere wasn't the only good thing about this game. The other amazing thing about this game were the enemies. Alright, now, there were bosses, but there were also kind of like these medium grade, not quite bosses, but not quite cannon fodder enemies that you came across. Those were great, creepy designs, but you had these cannon fodder enemies, and half of them were a little bit slow, but would like pick up the pace when they caught wind of you, and the other half were fast zombies. Alright, which completely took me by surprise. It's like, oh, whoa, they're moving fast. But best part of this game, they finally did it. You can shoot a zombie in the head once, and they'll die. It happened. It finally happened in the Resident Evil game. It's like, did hell freeze over? I mean, we finally have fast zombies that can be taken down with one headshot. I mean, and it's a lot of fun. Okay? It's amazing. It's like, yes, finally, you don't have to use 5 rounds to take out a zombie. How stupid is that? I'm sorry, you shoot anything in the head once, it's gonna be dead. Okay? 5 bullets in the head and that's on easy with those games. Now, in terms of difficulty, there were a little bit of problems there, but I'll get to that in a little bit. The combat isn't perfect though. The target reticle is not the best I've seen in a Resident Evil game. It's a little problematic. It's not unplayably bad, but it's just, if I was choosing like the reticle of your gun, I would have picked something far superior than what they gave you in the game. So the AI buddy is more competent in the first game, although that's not saying much because in the first game they would just wait around and watch you die as they're holding a knife. But there are issues there because like you have this skill tree and you can upgrade yourself, your AI teammate, and there's this one skill, it was a little pricey, but I saved up to get it. It basically has it where your AI teammate will be more assertive in fighting off zombies and they won't run out of ammo. I thought, cool, that's awesome. Unfortunately, when you switch to the other teammate, they don't really do anything at first. They just kind of stand there, they like walk around, and then like maybe crouch a little bit, and then finally after like a minute they will then pull up a gun and start firing at the enemy that's chasing you around the room, but they stop after like 3 rounds and then they run around again, a little bit of a circle. So like I said, far superior to the first game, but not saying much. Now this game was graphically superior to Revelations, which again is not saying much, but keep in mind the first Revelations was on Nintendo 3DS, okay? I mean, that system was not a graphical powerhouse, okay? Or is it powerhouse, powerhouse? I'm going to say it's a powerhouse. That's the right term. It was not a graphical powerhouse. That sounds better. But it was impressive what they were doing on the system. So I did not really hold that against the last game simply because of its origins. This game was not on the 3DS. This game was on the PlayStation 3, the Xbox 360, and the PlayStation 4, and the Xbox One. When that generation first came out, this came out like right at the switching of generations. I'm sure it came out on a couple of those systems. It might have been on the Wii U. I'm not sure. There you go. Those are all the systems that came on. This was kind of a cross-generation release. And the PlayStation 4 version is quite lovely to look at. I will be honest. There are a couple of locations where they didn't put a lot of work into them. But some of the outside locations, especially at night with the flashlight effects and whatnot, it's like, okay, this looks really, really good. Some of the character models, especially like Claire Redfield's jacket, all dirty and scuffed up, that looked really good. One surprising thing though is that this does have some level of 3D audio to it. I was playing with my headphones on, and while not as amazing as other 3D audio games I've played recently, like, you did have like a hemisphere differentiation between like noises. Like if you turned around, you would start getting the noise from this ear, and then you turn back around the other way, it was coming from this ear. So I was actually surprised that this had some level of 3D audio for a game from, what is it, 2014, 2015? I mean, yeah, so not the best, but kudos to the fact that they had that. Now, another thing I really loved about this game, there's a lot I liked about this game, was the story. The story was a lot more grounded than all of its, well, not just all of its predecessors, but especially its direct predecessor, Revelations 1. I mean, in Revelations 1, they were talking about a city out on the ocean called Tegucia. you know, it was like, what if Elon Musk built a city out on the ocean? That's what the city would be like, but it was destroyed by bioterrorists, and, you know, it was really heartbreaking when that happened, and, like, the world wept and whatnot. The story of the first game was really, really over the top. Most of the games, the story is really over the top, but with this game, not only did it feel grounded, it felt like this realistically could have happened after, like, Raccoon City. Alright? It didn't feel like it got more comical with its story. It felt very grounded, which I was surprised by. It's like, wow, why was this story not a mainline story? Because, I mean, like, 5, the story of the Resident Evil 5, I mean, it is really out there, over the top, like, I am going to destroy the world and make a new race. I mean, you know, it was just, like, very kind of the story you'd see in the Saturday morning cartoon. But this, I mean, the story of this was pretty good, I have to admit. It didn't feel so over the top. And another surprising thing about the story is the new virus. All of these Resident Evil games introduce a new virus. And the virus in this game actually felt like a legitimate upgrade to, like, the T virus in the second game. Alright? So many of these games, it's like, oh, this is the Q virus. What's so special about the Q virus, might I ask? It activates whenever you use Q-tips. Really? I mean, because you guys did, like, the Deep Abyss virus where it activates if you do water. That was kind of lame. Now we're doing Q-tips. Really? Really? Do not question my genius. I mean, but, like, the virus in this game that they introduced made sense. It was like, oh, it activates through this. That's actually kind of interesting. Why is it that this game has the more interesting virus than 4, 5, and 6 combined? Why? I mean, like, the writing was far superior to this than other mainline games. And it kind of doesn't make sense, because, like, the virus in this game, like, if I was an evil mastermind, it's like, no, that actually seems like a really interesting and effective viral agent that we could use to, like, rule the world. I mean, and, like, this is the only game that's in. Oh. Now, unfortunately, they didn't do as much as they could have with this interesting new virus. I mean, like, they started to, and then they just kind of, like, forgot about it towards the end of the game. It's like, you could have done some really interesting things there with this virus, and they didn't. So, here's to hoping they do Revelations 3 and continue with this kind of interesting virus, you know. Now, on to kind of the bad aspects of the game, the really ones. The worst aspect of this game was the ammo. So I started playing this game on normal, and I was having a fun time. But at the end of each episode, I was dying over and over and over and over again. And it wasn't because the enemies were too hard, it was because I was out of ammo. Like, this is the most scarce ammo has ever been in a Resident Evil game. Alright? I mean, at least in 4, you had options. But, I mean, like, 5 had this same problem. The ammo was so scarce at the end of the game that, like, I just had to sell everything I owned just to get a rocket launcher so I could finish the final boss, because I could not get enough ammo. And same problem here. I could not get enough ammo to finish out the episodes. So I had to drop the difficulty to easy. And Ammo still was a little bit scarce, but it was a little bit more frequent as well. And so I was able to handle the game for the rest of the time. That's kind of a downside when the game forces me to drop the difficulty level from where I started off as. But because of this, because of the ammo scarcity, I lost interest a couple of times, and I stopped playing this game a couple of times for weeks. Alright? Weeks! That's not good when a video game does that. Video games should keep you enthralled from beginning to end, and you should finish it in like just a couple of days. Alright? The really good ones you'll finish in like 2 days, and they were like a huge 30-hour campaign. Alright? But, yeah, no, this made me walk away from it a couple of times, which is unfortunate because this could have been my favorite Resident Evil game if they hadn't made these couple of mistakes. And another thing is there's a cliche boss encounter before the end of every episode. So, like, first episode, it was a little surprised, like, oh, okay, a boss, but it gets to the point you're it looks like, well, the episode's not over yet because we haven't done the boss, okay? There's a boss before the end of every episode, alright? And pretty cliche, if you ask me. So, and now one thing I do like is the post-credit scene. No spoilers, but I like how the post-credit scene was making references to characters and the events of Resident Evil 6. I thought that was pretty cool. It's like a nice continuation, even though there is a movie in between this game and Resident Evil 6. You know, I liked the post-credit scene. Now, once you finish the campaign, that's not it. You actually have 2 kind of DLC campaigns. One's like a time trial survival mode. Another one is, again, survival mode, but no time trial, following Moira and Natalia during the 2 segments they kind of went on their own. I didn't really play those, but I did finish the campaign. Now, what I did play was the raid mode. And Resident Evil games, they were known to have kind of like a multiplayer replay aspect to the main game. You know, like Resident Evil 4 had Mercenaries, okay? Resident Evil 5 had a new version of Mercenaries. I mean, they even had a solo Mercenaries game on the 3DS. But, yeah, Resident Evil games tend to have their own, like, kind of alternate mode that will keep you coming after. And I've never really liked these because they've almost always been time trial. Okay, like, okay, you have to kill zombie will give you, like, 3 seconds, and you need to keep the timer going until the rescue chopper comes, okay? It's like, I don't really care for that. But Revelations 2's raid mode was pretty awesome because there's no timer in this game. So now this time, it's you have to defeat all the enemies, and they have a level to them. So level 1 enemies you should be able to handle perfectly fine. You upgrade as well, but each subsequent level is harder. So eventually you're going to start doing level 24 enemies, and you need to upgrade your character and your weapons and your skills as you're fighting harder and harder enemies. No timer. I really enjoyed this game mode, and it's also playable with a friend, so it's not just a solo game mode. You can actually play with a friend on the couch, and quite honestly, why they haven't had this raid mode in other Resident Evil games baffles my mind. Because, I mean, this was the best multiplayer mode I've ever seen for a Resident Evil game, was this version's raid mode. So ultimately, I had a much better time with Revelations 2 than I had with the first Revelations. But it had its hiccups, and it had its fair share of problems, and it was because of these problems that this doesn't hold the title of my favorite Resident Evil game of all time. But this came so damn close. I really want to say that this was the best Resident Evil game I ever played. It almost was, but it did those mistakes, made those hiccups, and so because of that, it's kind of just a mediocre version of Resident Evil. Um, I won't say it's as bad as, like, Revelations. It's not as good as the Resident Evil 3 remake, even though it has that stupid 5 rounds to the head type deal. But I would say that this is comfortably in between Resident Evil Revelations 4 and 5, and between 2, 3, and I'm trying to think of what else I've reviewed. Anyway, I can't remember right now, but this is kind of middle of the road, okay? So, yeah. And I really was hoping that this wasn't, but, you know, gotta keep going. Maybe some of the later games did better, fared better, but who knows. So, is this worth getting? Absolutely. I would say this is definitely worth getting. Just know that it has a couple of problems. So, my name's Chris with the Love of the Hour Reviews. This has been my review of Resident Evil Revelations 2. And that is all.